Welcome to the Fifth Gait Podcast. We've thrown around the idea of a podcast for years, but we finally made it happen, stuck in the truck together on a 10-hour road trip home from a horse show. Our passion is the Icelandic horse and all aspects of the worldwide community that surrounds this breed. Here, we come together as equestrian professionals to share our hardest lessons, biggest wins, and our future hopes in Icelandic horsemanship. Our conversations aim to educate, inspire, and grow all people like us who love Icelandic horses, from enthusiasts and amateurs to trainers, competitors, and field specialists. I'm going to introduce you just briefly, and hopefully I'll cover everything that you are, because you play a variety of different roles in our community. But you're a rider, you're a judge, an international sports judge. You're an industry leader and innovator. You're always kind of creating ideas and developing ideas and help develop our judges matrix as it stands now. You're also an educator of people, educator of sport riders, but also educator of other judges, and an Icelandic horse historian, yes. Which there aren't many of those that I'm aware of. No. So that's also a very unique role that you play, documenting and collecting the information on the history of the Icelandic horse. So considering all that, can you share a moment in your childhood where you ended up on the path to Icelandic horsemanship in all capacities? When did you fall in love with horses?
I think that probably as early as I remember is also one of the earliest childhood memory, because I grew up on a farm, living on the farm with, we had about 250 horses at the most. My grandfather was a very well-known horseman, trainer of horses and competitor. He was also, at the time when I start to remember that I started riding at his farm, he was an old man. I was just wondering about it just yesterday. That he's probably 2 years younger than I am today. But I found him, that was an old man, an old grandfather. He was still competing. He kept on competing beyond 80.
Wow.
And he had alwabeen a horseman all his life. And he had, for example, he was a winner of a pace race at the first Landsmót in 1950. And he was also a winner of the Landsmót in 1970, and he just kept on competing. And so riding with him and understanding how he dealt with horses. He had a background as an athlete before in his younger life. He was a track and field athlete. He was an Icelandic champion in a lot of disciplines, in discus throwing and shot put, and he was an Icelandic champion for many, many years in wrestling. And he, as a young man, had the opportunity to go abroad, which was in the 1920s, was very rare, to go to a sport instruction school in Denmark. And what he did when his interest started to be more in horse-related sports was to use his knowledge and apply that in horse training. And when you are young, and you're asking about my memories of that, is what I realized much later, that you think that everyone thinks like that, everyone does it in this way, and then you found out that is not the way. For example, when he was training, that's one of the most important rule that he taught us, was to keep the spirit in the horse undamaged. That the pleasure of the joy of serving you as a rider. And that was such an important lesson. And I of course, you're not always following, because we had a lot of pace horses at home, and we had pace horses, and we found it just normal. Pace horses going in 22 seconds, and that, no problem. Oh, I had a new pace horse. I found a new pace horse in the herd, trained it one winter, and we were going 14.8 the next following year.
Wow.
I later found out this was just a privilege. It is not like that. And then you start.
Everybody's experience.
Yeah, and you think you can breed those horses. They will just come easily. It was not that. But what I learned and was a lesson was this, that you, for example, you never, if the horse has pleased you with a very good sprint, you don't try again immediately. No. Just leave that feeling that the horse has done for you, and the horse has that feeling it's done good. And so I think there's a lot of this psychology that he learned as an athlete himself, just to keep the pleasure in practice, his sport, that he transformed that or translated that into the horse training, and a lot of those things that we are talking about much later in modern times, about the psychology and the attitude and the respect. And I think that I think that is the most important memory from childhood, and especially later when I found out, and disappointingly, in the horse world and the industry, that this was not always a common practice.
No.
And it was a disappointment. I have to say that.
Yeah.
And maybe one of the reasons that I finally decided not to be a professional trainer or rider, I thought about it a lot. I would probably, if I was in my 20s today, I would definitely go that way. The opportunities were not as they were today. And this industry was not as developed, I have to say, as he later became.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so that is my background. But I learned riding. I think I was like 3 or 4. We had a very big. We used to be a very big dairy farm with the more than 80 heads animals. We had like 400 sheep, and of time changes. We had less land. We just got rid of the cows and the sheep, and so we had this big stables, and we used them always to train the horses in the winter inside, and we were always training inside, and no one was doing that because we had so much space. So we went from one end, and we were like 5, 6, 7-year-olds on green horses, and they could not do any harm. They just had to go and turn around, and he walked behind us, and never used a saddle. At first, I think I was in my mid-20s when I bought my first saddle. I was riding, either I borrowed his or I was just riding without, and you get so much, I could just natural balance and feeling, and going in full counter without it was no problem for me. Just how you grow up. So that is my background. Why we always had horses, and he inspired me, but not only me. He inspired a lot of people.
What was his name?
Þorgeir, also in Guðlaugsson, and
Goodness, yeah.
and I grew up with a lot of famous riders when they were just young men coming there and learning, and so that was very interesting for me, and a very important lesson. But especially this aspect of this psychology, how to deal with a horse, how to build up the spirit, and not going too far, and know when to stop, and so that I will always remember, and it is always in there. I think.
So, as a young adult, you didn't feel like maybe becoming a trainer was either something you didn't want to do, but also maybe not as much of an opportunity. So how did you end up becoming a judge?
That's much later. I can
Okay.
tell you that, and that is probably, I became a judge for the very worst reason, because I was competing, and I love pace racing. That is just in my blood, and I think I had the opportunity to, I could choose from a row of horses who could all go fast, who could all win, and so that was my favorite part of the sport. But also we start also to develop more interest for the more conventional sport, that sport that was developed more in Europe, that came gradually more in Iceland. It wasn't like that. It came in the late 70s, I think 1979 we had the first Icelandic championship in that. So we never grow up with that kind of sport. It came.
But Guiding was existing.
Guiding was there, and next step is of course taking part in that because it is a lot of the values, like the value of speed and power, and so I start competing and had the feeling sometimes, I can do that better. I'm sure, out of pure ignorance and arrogance. And so I decided to become a judge. And of course, little did I know. And of course, I had to start from scratch and then find out, this is much more to this than I ever thought. So that was the reason I started to be more active judging. There comes a break point that if you have the ambition to go for excellence in something, that you have to let go of the other thing.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
the active riding competitions were more or less I limited. I always liked showing breeding horses. I bred quite a lot in the time, so I found that really a challenge and very much fun to prepare them and show them ourselves, and always our own horses. So I'm not a huge number, maybe 30, 40 horses I've shown. So I found that always really nice to do. I think it's already, I can say it today, people don't know that, but my first love in this sport and maybe a secret pleasure is Guiding Academy. I really like it. I liked it so much to compete in it. It was much more my sport than ever. But that happened because mostly I moved out of Iceland. There was no Guiding Academy. In fact, it's there. So that is more the reason I start to specialize and start to be like a active judge in the sport.
Oh, okay.
So that is how that came about.
Okay. Real quick, this isn't one of our more official questions, but when in the process of moving to Holland or the Netherlands, because you live in the Netherlands now, were you already a sport judge when you moved to the Netherlands, or did you become a sport judge afterwards?
I came a sport judge in Iceland.
Okay.
And that was just around the time I moved, I think maybe a year before.
Okay.
And so I originally I'm an Icelandic sport judge.
Gotcha.
And it took my friends in Holland a little time to accept that to have this outsider, and so you had to prove yourself and then just go through their programs and just adapt and just sometimes just shut up and learn. And I mean, it is so funny. You maybe you remember that from your own youth, that when you are in this 20s and you think you can master everything and you are able to do, and finally later in life you just realize that, oh God, I was so ignorant. I didn't have no clue. So you learn that it's not a coincidence that we have 2 ears and 2 eyes and only 1 mouth. And that is designed with a purpose, I think. Just say more, say little, and listen. But I was very much very shy and extremely scared of talk in public. And after I became a 5 judge, I remember that, which just was a spur of the moment decision.
Oh, wow.
I was just there, and my good friend Einar Ragnarsson, he said, "Why are you not going for the exam?" And because the exam was held in after a judges seminar, a 5 seminar, and then I said, "Yeah, okay, I'm Iceland anyhow, and I just sign me up," and so that was how that went, and no special preparation and nothing, and just so which is fine because otherwise I would probably be very, very, very nervous
That's true.
Worked up.
but yeah, no, that's just how that went.
evolved.
And
Sorry, I'm just so curious about this. So I got to meet Einar as a kid. Is he one of your primary mentors when it comes to judging?
my grandfather's farm was at that time in the outskirts of Reykjavik. I was born there and was raised there, but when I think I was like 8, we moved to the city. And still I walked as an 8 or 9-year-old. I walked those 12 kilometers just to go for riding. And I tried to spend as much time as possible. The neighboring farm, Einar lived. And in between those two farms was this communication center of Iceland, was built there because that was in the countryside. And there, another judge, Hörður Hákonarson, he started to have horses. And so we were 3 of us, and they were, both of them, even if they were much younger than my grandfather, they were 2 of his best friends. So what I inherited from my grandfather, beside the obvious things, was the friendship with those 2.
With those 2. That's really incredible.
Wow, that is.
We'd like to focus a little bit on the negative in this podcast. Just the controversial, because we think that's very healthy too, because that's how we learn, is to go through that. So in your journey to become an international sport judge, was there anything that made you almost want to quit judging?
No,
No.
never. No, it has never been my, no, I think see, in the beginning, I like I said, I was shy and back and went to my first 3 seminars. I just was sitting back in the room and listened. I never even dared to raise my hand or say anything.
And now you teach those seminars.
Yeah, and gradually you go through a phase of self-development, and then you start to ask you, but I have something to say. And I think maybe I should, and then it cost me a lot of effort, and just to raise my hand, to raise questions, so it has more been in that spirit to improve and to contribute it in a positive way. And of course I can irritate. Of course I can get frustrated that things are developing so slow and extremely slow. And but no, it has never been, and also not. I have a good self-confidence, so I don't have. Of course, you get people screaming at you and disappointed and whatever. But then you have to just understand, where did I come from, and I never did that, but I was also frustrated. I know disappointment, but I know it is also not always grounded. It is just the moment of disappointment, and the following day it is different. And so no, I have never ever had that feeling, or no.
That negativity. Huh?
No, no. But this no, I've done it with much pleasure. But I have been extremely lucky and privileged that I've been in the position to judge a lot of those big important competition, which gives me opportunity to learn and develop. And I've judged World Championship. I mean, endless. I mean, I've judged at 12 of the World Championship.
Wow.
And also 10, 12 times at the German Championship, Swedish and Danish, which means that you are privileged that you are in the front row seat, and you are very much in the highest quality and the highest level. And that is just a learning moment. And I have got the opportunity to travel. I had my first time here in the States, 2001, and I was just counting it. I think like 35 times I've been judging in the States, which means I I'm a very privileged position.
Yeah. You have a lot of perspective on things.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that helps a lot because the basic of your judgment is your reference frame. And the reference frame is, of course, the formal education, informal education, self-development, but also all the moments that you are sitting there watching a horse after horse after horse after horse on a competition here, there, everywhere. I always go home, and there has never been a tournament when I thought, oh, this did not add anything. No, they always, oh, I learned this today. I remember, okay, that was good. As a judge, I think you have to be like a sponge. You have to soak everything up. The moment you've lost that interest is maybe the moment you should stop and find another thing to do.
Yeah.
And when you have got the arrogance to think, I know it all better, when you have lost the hunger of learning. Today I had scribe, and she was into other kinds of equestrian sports than I come from. I can't wait to go home to try it on my horses. I am so excited to know I never had heard of a shy equestrianism.
Yes.
Now I'm gonna order that book. I'm gonna learn how to use my body in a better way. So no, it's been a pleasure ride, I have to say. And I'm also just lucky that I was in this position, able to do this all.
Yeah. So now we like to ask a little bit about just your career, maybe some different perspectives you have, which we've already touched on. But this is another controversial question, potentially, depending on how you answer it. What has been the most important horse in your life, good or bad?
I think you can divide this in two. One is personal horse that you are dealing with, are training. A horse can have a great influence on you because you made a mistake.
Yes.
And maybe, I don't want to say destroying, but you did not train it to its potential. And that is a lesson for life. All the horses, they teach you a lot. And so I think my first really good pace mare is the horse I will always just have in my heart and in my mind. So horses that have influence on you because you just watch it and you get inspired of their and they form your reference. And they, of course, they would probably, if I see that horse that influenced me 20 years ago and would see it tomorrow, would probably not have that. So that is always changing. There comes a new horse that refreshes our reference. So I think that is that. But I try to keep riding horses. I was not riding for a while. It was just not working that well with my. I had just I had this problem with my hands because I got this Borrelia infection, and it's in your joints and very difficult to use the hand, and that is not so good. I tried to ride 1 year by turning, wrapping the reins around my arm.
Maybe not the safest thing.
And not very good for the connection, but it's going much better now, and I'm riding quite intensively now. And I'm not competing, but they have to be good enough to compete. I found that are the best riding horses. A horse should not have a function ideally a horse should not have a function because of its limitations, but because of your ambition. And therefore I have a very luxury riding horses at home, but I love to have them and train all the new things. And I have also the opportunity to work with people that are leading people in the industry. um, and a good contact with them, and I'm just trying to look what are they doing now, what is interesting. Met them said, for example, we have we have a good feeling and a good cooperation. And she was telling me about this slow trot and collected trot, and of course I had to go home, and now my horses can trot on the spot, and they get this extremely well developed back muscles. And so I always like that. I always like the need to have a horse to try and to see if I can practice what I'm preaching.
Yeah. This is a judging question, but being a sport judge is very much a mental challenge. And it requires, I think, at least a particular mindset. I always admire judges because I don't think I always have this mindset. But you have to be focused. You have to maintain focus for a long period of time. But what do you think is most important when it comes to fostering a good mindset for judging?
I think I think, as you say, that being a good horse person and being well educated and being a good feeling is an absolute pro. Absolutely, but it's not a guarantee that you're a good judge. And because I think next to have the background and the knowledge and the depth of knowledge and the willing to learn, you also need to have the ability to analyze and the ability to process information and translate that into a system of in our sport and system of score. So I think that ability is probably this analytical ability is probably the most important characteristics in sport. Otherwise, you are just getting all information, and if you can't process them and translate them into a result, whatever that result is it just yes or no, or 1 or 3 or 5 or 6, then you're going to have a very hard time.
It's a mental processing ability. Yeah, it's synthesis from visual image to number.
And what I found interesting to do is to try to go in depth of the nature of the sport and the nature of the work we are doing as a sport judges, and to understand the processes. I think that is so important to just to know what is happening in your brain when you are doing it, and then I try to read as much as I can about literature, and luckily it is more and more focus on it. The sports psychology has been a lot of motivating. You can do it towards the athlete, but then also focus on the officials.
Yes,
and that is very, very, very important to understand how the processing of the information is going, in which order we do, and also which factors are having influence on it. And that will answer, of course, the question, how on earth do I do mistakes when there is no reason for that? And I think we have the literature speaks over more than 80 known biases that are at work when we are doing subjective assessments. And those are, of course, literature from other sports than ours, but they are in nature the same. So I have tried to educate myself about that, and also bring that knowledge to other colleagues, and let them understand. And sometimes it is probably sometimes when people get diagnosed, it's a relief to know, and also just a relief for them, not that they will do anything about it, but most of the biases, they are just creeping in. And they are just there, but knowing that they are there and that is their work and not your stupidity. And we also seen when people not realize how subjective assessment works and which processes are involved, they think that inaccuracy in judging. I mean, we have a difference between mistakes in judging and inaccuracy. Mistakes is that when you forget to apply a rule, and inaccuracy is that your subjective perception is just different.
I love that delineation.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
Than the person next to you, and they are coming to a different conclusion. And some of those things we can just objectively measure. For example, beat. And we can measure beat by lap, and we can measure other aspects of the gaits. Duty factor we can measure, for example, and then you can train your eye, and then you can find out how accurate I am. And those who are judging or coming to the conclusion that are fitting to the objective truth, measured truth, they are accurate judges. And those who are not, they are inaccurate, but they are not right or wrong, they're just not accurate. Right or wrong is only when you are not applying clear rules. So I think that is important, but I know also in judges education, we try to take the methods in gait analyzing and take that as a tool to help. And I think we have a booked progress in that. And also just to understand that there's, even if our judgment are subjective, the gait is objective, measurable. And so is speed, and so is roominess, and everything. So I think that this gives us a very good tool, and we have developed a tool, of course, to use the lap and as an education tool, use duty factor measurement to see is this an hindquarters that are involved or are well used and or not, and just to understand what is going in the body and how to read the whole mechanism that is going on in the horse, and to understand the processes of biomechanics and just to apply that in your judgment, in your processing, in your processing of information. And I think that is exactly the same as modern day trainers are doing. It's just exactly the same here. So I think that is interesting.
This is a bit of a follow-up question, but do you think that in the future we're going to see more of those biomechanics measurements, computer programs playing a role in judging?
Yeah, it is an object we have raised in recent years. Until now, it's going to help us to develop and get more accurate in the subjective, to know if the subjective of the perception
is aligning with.
Yes, it is. And then that we can just by compare what we thought and came to the conclusion, and then compare to the measurement. But of course there is the technical advance is there that we can, as like today, and at all modern tournaments, we are just judging with our tablets or laptops on the track. Maybe in the future we will have sensors on horses that will tell us real life lap. How the beat is, and we have just then a pop-up window who can tell us this one is going, now it's going a lap of 30, so it's a little trotty, and now only very, very trotty is 31, and then just I mean,
and that could come into the subjective as like extra data points for judging.
Yes, okay, as a reference. We see it a little bit in dressage when we have pressure meters, pressure meter on the reins. And the results are popping up on the screen of the judges. So it's already there, experimental. So I would not rule it out. I mean, that is possible. But first step is now just use this knowledge, use this methods.
And compare it to what we see too, because we have to figure out
Yes, if
that
you
balance.
yes, what we for example with using the lab is we have the objective truth there, and if you by watching again and again and a lot of horses, and you come to a conclusion that there is a pattern in your inaccuracy, which means that you must have a problem in seeing trotty walk. Trotty walk, for example, is very often unnoticed, and quality of walk is often misunderstood when it is just trotty, and even if it is long strides and everything is good, but it's just a trotty beat. And I for myself, I think I was not so confronted with trotty tilt or pacey tilt, but I had obviously issues with something I thought was pacey walk when I found out it was not pacey at all, but it had just all of this and all the flaws. And then that just comes out when you just compare. This is the truth, and this is your, and this in this instance, just your wrong conclusion, your wrong perception.
Yeah.
So in that way, knowing that, you can more in a more direct way adjust your judgment and work on an improvement of where you are weak.
So this is an aside too that you might not know the answer to, but do you think the Icelandic horse sport is leading in this use of measurement tools to educate their judges? Because it seems like to me, while I know there are some efforts in the dressage world, we already have so many layers that I don't hear it getting as in depth as.
I'm therefore I know that too little. Because I don't had a dressage background. I had to work on that at home. I established a very good relationship with an international dressage judge who was judging and also a rider. He was also riding Grand Prix level, and ended up that I came twice a week to ride on her horse just to know how it is, because a lot of my colleagues and judges in Holland have that background. I didn't have it. I found myself disadvantaged, so I have to do something about it. So just two times in a week riding on a dressage horse, and which was an experience. And then also go as a scribe to a big championship, as a scribe to understand how their sport is, and that's. Just went with me to a big championship as a scribe and told me, for example, one question she was asking me when I was giving a score for trot, maybe 10 years ago, we did look at it a little bit different, and then she looked, are you sure this is trot? and of course missing bearing in the back, and it was just fast and just flying legs all over the place, but absolutely not written over the back. And are you sure this is 5 point is average? Is it really the gate? And which was of course a wake-up call for me. So I think this even if I'm not aware exactly how they are applying this, I try to follow a little bit all the sports like this one, just to improve yourself and also to get ideas. But I don't recall that they are in this sense, that they are not using it that much as we are doing. But we are fortunate that we are leading in several other aspects of equestrian sports, for example, in the welfare. And that is when we start to take, for example, we do this health check. And of course they could be better than they are today, but at least we are allowed to touch a horse. We are allowed to look into his mouth. We are allowed to carry out in dressage. That is not always the case. And what they have told us, the dressage, that they are full of admire that we are doing that much, and because when we developed the guideline that we are using today, that's 10 years ago, it was far ahead of the
Of the curve on that, yeah.
on the time on the emphasis that is today on horse welfare.
Okay.
So we benefit from that. And of course, it is not a reason to lean back and say, oh, we took care of that 10 years ago. We
Yeah.
didn't. We always have to be the best of the class still.
Yeah.
And but taking horse welfare already 10 years into our judging system makes that we are now out of the wind of the
Yes.
of this huge criticism of equestrian sports, especially racing,
Yes.
show jumping, sometimes eventing, and so we are lucky, but we still have to develop and go further on that.
That's a good thing to stay ahead of.
Yes, it is. And hope we stay there, right?
I want to ask this question just because as a rider, I'm curious. What do you think are the biggest misunderstandings that riders and audience members have when it comes to sport judging? What do you wish we knew from the outside of the...
There, of course, I think just general knowledge of the nature of the sport, just to understand that this is a subjective assessment. The flaws of such assessments, they are known, but not known by those people. And so good to understand that it is not because of ignorance and stupidity that people have different opinions or not reacting on that. It is how they process the information that is there to analyze. And I think that is one of the things to have a deeper understanding of the nature of the sport. But also one thing, sometimes we have different opinions when we are judging, different opinions between a judge and a trainer. Riders is always very difficult because they are focused on thing, they are doing their thing. And that has to do with a phenomenon in our sport is something that is called judgmental dimensions. And judgmental dimensions are 3. 2 of them are used by us, the judges. That is the dimension of evaluative. That is more or less, what do I think of it?
Yeah.
And that can be in terms of score, scale, whatever. Second one is the judgment of identification. Is it or isn't it? That is it a green flag or a red flag? Was he in pace over the line or for the line or before the line? Is it yes or no, black or white? We use those 2 dimensions as our judges. Then there is the third one, and that is the judging dimension of course. Why is it as it is? What made that horse uneven in the hind legs? And we, as judges, we don't use that one.
Yeah.
And the trainer is using that one, of course. So a horse can take this example. For example, a horse is uneven in the hind legs. And we are, as judges, we are just looking, is it uneven or is it not even? Identification.
Right.
And we take a decision, yes, it is uneven. And what does our system say? How do we deal with that in our evaluation? It says we have to give maximum like 4 or 5, whatever it is. And so in that sense, we are dealing with the manifestation of the fault. And you, as a trainer, you are using the dimension, judging dimension, of course, using, yes, he is uneven because of. And that can be like 10, 20 different reasons. It can be it's a young horse, or he's rider sitting a little crook. It can be just the one boot was heavier than the others. It can be that in some part of the track it was loose underground, it can be lot. Those information we can never take in the judgment because we have not the background information on everyone. We don't know how young or old this or how long it has been trained or whatever, or he has been sick for a month. This is impossible, and that I think is often the base of a misunderstanding or different opinions between those two groups. I found that.
Yeah, absolutely. That actually just sounds very similar to so many conversations.
It's making me giggle because like that's what I love thinking about with every single horse. Like, and so that's near impossible for me to edit out.
Yeah. Like we're trying to diagnose the problem, and you're just trying to assess, identify the problem.
Yes,
but no further than that.
It is not possible. Of course, you have to have the basic equestrian knowledge to decide, is it a rider's problem, is it a balance problem from a horse and whatever, because then you can see the correlation of if he is sitting so crooked or he is sitting behind the movements and he's not ability to move in the saddle or whatever. And then, of course, that will tell you where how you're gonna tackle it in the evaluative process. Is it a writing problem? Is it a suppleness problem? Is it whatever? But you can't go in depth in this. That is absolutely not possible. And you only can just what you see, and you can't have this background information. When we are doing this, when we see this, we just decide: is it or is it not? Is it? And how do my guideline, a rule, tell me how to deal with it? What you as a rider do and trainer, you try to find, as a rider, you try to find out what is causing this problem, and I try to fix it on the moment. You start to, like you today, or whatever, you try to bend your horse to the inside, outside, you low up, you try to get the back up, you get the hind leg under, you try to find a solution here and there. A trainer is at the outside, he tried to find a solution for the next coming tournament.
Yes.
That is how it works.
Thinking ahead,
Yes, and he will tell you, okay, this happened and that, we have to tackle that a little bit different next time. That is different. So we have a different functions, and so our approach and our processing is different. So I think this is something that people just forgot and completely maybe ignorant of, and no wonder, because this is not things we are talking about every day. But this is what lies behind those kind of misunderstandings. Or
it's that we're more or less not even having the same conversation.
No, not because we are not talking out of the same dimension.
Right, yeah. Okay, so this is a fun question, not a big question, but maybe it is. What is your favorite sport class to judge?
My favorite sport class will always be the 5 Gait. This is that's my totally a favorite is the 5 Gait. And just having those two specific Icelandic horse gaits in there. I'm also just like to think about the future of 5 Gait. I'm a little bit in that phase now to think: is it a good? What is a good 5 Gaiter? Is it a good development that we have a 5 Gaiter that can tilt for 9 and pace for 5? Or would I rather have a 5 Gaiter that can tilt for 7 and pace for 7? And therefore, I'm wondering if maybe time has come, because of progress and in breeding, that we have so much, the tilt has improved so much. Do we still have to protect the tilt by a weight factor of 2 like we do today? Or can we drop that and have the factor only of pace?
Interesting.
And just to, I'm so afraid that we are losing the 5 Gait into a 4.5 Gaiters who are showing pace that is very on the limit to be recognized as the gate. And so I that is just something I'm thinking about now at the moment. So you can
I've
hear.
never quite thought about it like that with the double on the tolt and the double on the pace as it stands right now. And that is something that could be shifted, where we could value the pace more
Yes.
because the tolt is on average just, you don't see a 5 gate where
No,
horses are piggy pacing anymore as
No,
much, right?
no.
Like not at the higher level.
when those rules were made, it was just to prevent that gateless or
Yeah.
horses with a bad tilt,
Yeah.
and they had to be good in those 2 gates. Pace test as well. I really love that pace. I'm also much thinking these days are we rewarding speed too much in pace test? 1/3 of the score is for the time, but also judge number 2 and 3 are judging the pace quality. They are depending also a lot. The scores are also depending a lot of how fast it looked like.
Yes.
And the technical part of laying and slowing down, would it maybe be interesting to let them count double? And just
value the transitions.
yes, and because I think it is not, I think, in the spirit of this discipline to let someone win who has 0 for laying or 0 for slowing down.
But that could be the case.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
it's
So-
fast enough, essentially.
Therefore, have someone who can do that for like a 7 and be a 1 second slower,
Yes.
which is still a good speed.
Yes.
I love it.
some ideas I'm just been thinking about.
I think it's great. We
recently.
usually have a part of the podcast where we talk about the future of horsemanship, and we're just always there in every single question, which is clearly just how you think too, is you think
Yeah.
forward, right?
Yeah, I think we should never ever lean back and think that the 7 days are behind us, so the universe is fully made or developed or created. But no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I think we always have to keep on thinking and how can we make it more interesting. And I think a big step was, of course, taken when the guidelines were made
Yes.
10 years ago, also meaning that those guidelines, the story has or the history has taught us that we have to take them for a major overhaul about every 10-15 years, just to keep up with development in the sport itself, in the industry. And I think also the guidelines, of course, it's just maybe in coming just 3-4 years, we will also do that.
Yeah, an overhaul and really transition it.
And but the guidelines as they are today, it is just the half of the development that we had, that we wish to do at the time. We were very, very lucky to have, when we worked on this project to make these guidelines, we were so lucky to have a cooperation with other departments, with the breeding, with the guiding academy, with the scientists, and we could rely on their assistance, and it was an incredible journey to meet those experts and people and feel in the beginning like, well, you are a judge, but I'm a scientist, but I am from Hólar and I am from Hvanir, and I am a breeding leader of Iceland, and just in 1 or 2 sessions to feel that everyone was on the same page.
Yeah.
Everyone was heading in the same way. And we had a contribution from people like Þorgeir Guðlaugsson from breeding, Eyjólfur Ísólfsson. He was a key factor in developing the new guidelines, and just be able to pick his brain, the man with such a vision, and it was just an unforgettable journey. And so we are so grateful to have had them on board. So I think so for the future. I think this was a big step at the time, but of course for the future there are other steps to take. And what we always had in mind at the time was when we have established that new guideline, which is not a new guideline, it's just 10 years old now, is that we have a different guideline for different level of education of horse and education and background of a rider. Today, it is not the case. We are judging people in T7 for in the same way we are judging a T1 horse. People are therefore confronted with big set of demands, which is not relevant for their level of education. And we need I think I'm always been thinking of 3 levels, and we know the system in dressage, for example, and that we have 3 levels where we adjust the set or the demands,
criteria,
the criteria of what they have to fulfill, so that we could send a winner home in T7 with 7 and 8. And not like 4.8, because that is such an unfair. I think as long as we are doing it in this way, we are destroying the sport. We are making it very hard to succeed for people. Because we are basing the scores of people on what they can do.
Yes, it's discouraging.
Yes, and instead of let them have the satisfaction of fulfilling. So why we never, of course, ask for any form of collection of a green horse of a beginning rider. That is for much later in the training scale. So my wish for the future is that we develop a system like this, that we are losing people from our sport. We are losing in Europe. We are losing people to Western, or just to golf. I mean, everyone is losing people to golf. But I think would be much more encouraging system to build it up like that, and in the way we build up our guideline with firewalls and blocks, and then it's easy to just take some of the blocks and just take them out of the sheet, we can move the firewalls all the way, or sometimes just throw them out, and it's easy to do, and I would wish that we have a system like that. It's more encouraging, more based on what you can do than always confront you with things that are not within your reach. I think it's also in every learning, you always have to you have to have a goal that is reachable.
That's reachable,
that is in the zone of nearest development. Otherwise, you are always trying to reach. It's like reaching for something that is end of this table. I will never reach it. But if you reach it, if you put it on the middle of the table, if I do my best, I will grab it. And that and today, I think can be where it is very frustrating to be competing because knowing I can never fulfill this. So that's just an answer to your question. I think that is in our system that we can do in our sport is important.
It's important.
That is genius. I think I want to pivot a little bit, because I do want to ask you a little bit about the Icelandic horse historian.
Just real quick.
Yes. So not all people that know you, but a lot of people that know that you are an Icelandic horse historian. What got you interested in Icelandic horse history?
It lies also just in my education and background. I studied at the university in Iceland. I picked a study that I could find out I could be outside most of the time, and so I graduated in social geography. But as a minor, I took all the course and classes I could in history. So I've always been interested in history. I went during my college years, I became a member of the editorial staff at Educator, and for a while I was the co-editor of that Icelandic magazine. And that is where I start to write about history to when I felt this is something that if it interests me, it could interest other people. And same I did in when I was also had the opportunity to write books about horses. I wrote I think about 11 or 12 books on the subject. It's more a journalistic work, but also with historic chapters about the history of Landsmót, history of pace racing, a history of whatever. And also in this big coffee table book, the Icelandic horse, that 20 years ago was a big chapter. And then I was asked to, of course, take care of the sport and take care of the history. So that has always had my interest, and mostly because it's such an unknown and it is so exciting, much to discover. For example, the history of Icelandic horses. When I was growing up, and I think all generations around my age, and we all just took it as given fact that there were no Icelandic horses in America until after the World War II. That is what we believed, and now we have found out that they had a very long and colorful history in America, and they were like today we are sitting here at this table in Iowa, and this was the heartland of Icelandic horses: Iowa, Nebraska, Illinois.
Yeah.
Here were
realize this area.
Horses were shown here at the Fair State in Des Moines already in 1888. In Nebraska, State Fair of Nebraska the year before, Illinois in 1889. We had breeders in America that were completely devoted to Icelandic horses. Famous people, Theodore Whale, the founding president of AT&T. He was an enthusiastic Icelandic horse breeder in the 1880s until the 1915. He was bringing Icelandic horses to big fairs and shows. He brought Icelandic horses to the World Fair in Chicago. So Icelandic horses had been here so long, and they had a colorful, interesting history that very few people know about. So that is interesting. I found it. I try to use my trips to America sometimes also to go in archives, to visit museum, to visit experts, and so
make those connections.
Yes, it is very interesting just to see that this Icelandic horse, how well known they were. How a lot of famous people. We had Icelandic horses on shows in America 20 years before the first horse show ever in Iceland. It is maybe in the American culture to bring them out, to show them, and they were
Americans are show-offs.
and they were rare, and therefore a lot of rich people, affluent people owned them in the old days. And also interesting history. How did they get to become forgotten?
Why?
And it makes you so humble when you think you have reached something in life, that it is just in terms of time, it is just can be forgotten just like that. And so it's very interesting to think about it. But the Icelandic horses were here around, and especially here in this Midwest, they played a major role, and another hotspot in Vermont, where they were bred, and horses were brought also directly from Iceland by skippers of fishing boats. Americans, they went to fish halibut in Iceland in the 1880s, and they brought horses, and they were selling them in this harbor of Gloucester, just north of Boston, and the harness maker in Gloucester, he was advertising in the 1890s harnesses for your Icelandic horse.
Wow!
And this is just, and I had the opportunity last year to visit Gloucester and visit those places, and the people, they were extremely helpful and interested in it, and because this added to their history, they were working on this special Icelandic American relationship in the late 19th century, when the fishermen went from America all the way to Iceland to catch a fish, halibut, that Icelanders were never eating or doing anything with, and we had to learn it from the Americans. And this history of those Americans is very fascinating. They, when the weather was not so good that they could go fish, they were staying ashore, and many of them owned Icelandic riding horses. And when they are riding back to the family, they are describing the horses like we would be describing them today. They are sure-footed, they are comfortable, they are so strong.
That is so cool.
And they were promoted in Massachusetts. They were promoting them as a riding horse, and there were commissions. They were horses taken out with those fishing boats on commission for people who just wanted to breed them and keep them. And so this is a fascinating history that is, I would say, almost unknown.
Wow.
So I'm left with about 30 more questions.
Nah.
But I want to finish with one final one. I think history, why I love history is I feel like it gives you perspective on the present.
It's humbling.
Right? And it, like you said, it's humbling, and it also, you can learn so much from it, and it just educates your future. Is there some lesson in Icelandic horse history, as you've been studying that you feel we could benefit from?
I think what we have learned from the history in America, what the key factors, it got forgotten that we did not have organization, we did not have cooperation, we did not have here the sense of promoting the horse because we did not have a recognized stud book. We have that today, which is a lesson that we should treasure that. We should treasure our community. We would make positive use of our the association we have here, which means that we have to work together as an association, as a community, and have this sense of limit our pride and a personal agenda for the greater good. I think what happened in these old days was that the horses disappeared, got forgotten, was out of politics, was of personal agendas, and I think we could benefit not only in this country, in a lot of other associations, of more sense of community, more willingness to give than always to receive, and cooperation, and just have that sense that you not always can get what you want.
Yes.
And I think that is just I think that having a ride a horse is fun, but you can do that with any other animal, kind of a horse, but having a community is so important. To be a member of a community, to come together, to look forward, to meet friends. It's just as much fun as riding those rounds
on the oval track.
Oval track. So having a welcoming community, open, educating, as free of struggle and politics and dislikes. History has told us that. So, answer to your question, I think that is the lesson that we could learn.
It's a valuable lesson. It pertains to all of us because we can all get caught up in that,
and we all have a shared responsibility there. Because we each show up in a part. We're all little parts. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
This interview. I am also left with 30 questions.
No,
Thank you for listening to the Fifth Gait Podcast. I know you've heard this on other channels but it really is so important that you like and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening through, or all of them for that matter. We would also love to hear from you on social media, so please send us ideas, suggestions. Let us know what you're enjoying right now so we can continue to make content you want to watch and hear. Thank you again for your support, and we will see you next time on the next episode of the Fifth Gait Podcast.